So we went ahead and we got all our beef cubes cut up. And I peeled some potatoes and cut them up. You want to make them about, I don't know, fingers, like, section of finger thick. I'm not a big celery person, but I do put a little bit of celery into my beef stew just to add the flavor and the, vitamins that you get from it. But I just add a little bit in there. And chunks of carrots, you peel them real good, and onion. Now, all the scrap from the outside of the onion, from the carrot, from the celery, some of the beef fat that you took off of the roast, yeah, I add that all and I make my stock. I add all the beef fat and onion scraps and celery scraps and all that, and I cook that and make my own stock to put in the beef stew. Okay, you're going to want to start off with your jars. You want to make sure they're clean. I heat up water and I actually give them a little bit of a boiled bath before I start filling them. Number one, because I'm going to fill them and put hot liquid in it, so I just want them to be kind of hot when I do that. Your lids, after I've washed all the jars and I filled them, I'm going to throw them in the boiling hot water before I cap them. So I've got it all set out here and I'm just waiting for my water to boil. Okay, once the water is boiling, you just put the jar into the pot, and then you take it out. I use metal tongs. I grabbed it from the top so the water drops out. Okay, then we take it over and I put it on my thing, and we go back and we put the next jar in. Sitting there for a minute or two, let it get nice and hot. In the meantime, we come back over to our jar. All right, we start out by putting some meat in the bottom. There's a good spot for you. Okay. It's beef stew. You want to make sure there's beef. Nothing worse than getting a beef stew that ain't got no beef in it. And then we come over here and we're going to grab some of our potatoes. A few pieces of celery will go into it. Okay, so just putting it in there. My husband always asks for extra carrots. He's the only one who will eat them, but he loves them. So we make sure we fill that up. And we want a chunk of onion. Okay. Once we got our jar full, we're going to add beef broth. You want to leave a 1/4 of an inch at the top, which I've kind of filled these a little too high. I don't have to lose a carrot. So that it has room to cook. Okay, just gonna grab the meat, fill the jar nice and about halfway full. I like meat in my beef stew. I'm gonna grab some potatoes, 2 chunks of onion, Okay, so what we want to do is we want to prepare our pressure cooker so that way when we've got it all set and together, we can put it right in there and get it started. So I have a Barton, okay? It's when I bought my pressure cooker, I didn't have all this money to buy the fancy ones and pay $300-400. And I'm not saying those are bad, and I'm saying it's great if you have one. But I'm saying if you don't, and you have to go with a cheaper alternative, well, you know what? You do what you got to do. So anyway, so you got my pressure cooker. There's a grate that goes in the bottom, and you want to make sure it's lifted so that the top takes it. This is to keep the bottles from being on directly on the bottom of the pressure cooker. You don't want them bouncing around, they could break. So this keeps that from happening. It has holes so that the water and stuff can get through. Now, you saw me with my water that I've been using this whole time to sterilize the jars, this, that, and everything. It's still hot. So I'm a waste not, want not type girl. I just take that hot water and dump it right into my pressure cooker. Okay, I have my stove on high, so I'm letting this get back up to a boil again. And that's going to be ready to go. Okay, so now we want to make sure we have no air pockets in our food. Okay, and how we're going to do that is by poking down. Some people use chopsticks, some people use different tools. As I said years ago, I bought a pack that came with all these nifty little tools in it. And if you got them, you use them, right? So, walk with me. Okay, we've got a steady stream of steam. And then you put on your little weight. Okay, these jars are out of the canner. And they've cooled down. So they're ready to be put away. But not really, because look it. You can't feel it. But stuff does come out. Doesn't all stay inside. Some does bubble out before it seals. And it gets on the sides and it's nasty and greasy. And it needs to be wiped off. Now, you can test. Nothing's popping back up. All the seals are down. If it wasn't, you'd hear it ting. So you've checked all that. So now what you want to do is you're going to take off all your rings, wash your rings, and you're going to take a rag with vinegar on it, and wipe down your bottles and your lids. Okay, then you're going to dry them with a dry towel. And you're going to want to label them, what's in them, and the date that you processed it, so that you know. It's very questionable about how long shelf life really is, okay? Is this jar stay sealed and nothing pops on it? It's good indefinitely. Okay, as long as that seal does not break. Seal breaks, you either have to use it immediately or it's going to go bad. So if it's on your storage rack and this seal breaks for some reason, then it's garbage. You throw it away. Botulism. All kinds of nasty bacteria and stuff get in there, and you don't want to eat it. You're going to get sick, and mostly you could even die. So you want to keep track, though, because they say, you know, most places will tell you, oh, it's 1 year, or they'll say 5 years, or 10 years. But depending on the situation, if you find a jar, seal's still tight, it's good. You can eat it. Now we have an option. You can put this on your shelf without the cap, or you can wash your cap, dry it, and put it back on. What I like to do is I put them on the shelf without the cap, and I leave them there for at least a week. That way I can tell if, you know, for some reason the seal isn't tight enough or anything. I don't want to put my cap on and then find out later that the cap made it look like the seal was still good, but it wasn't. So after about a week, if everything still looks good, then I can put my caps on. And the caps are there just to kind of protect it, so that if it gets bounced around or something hits it, it doesn't prematurely crack the seal.